It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to It's About to Go Down Season 3 wrap-up. My name is Mark Williams.
And I'm Cathey Armias. Everybody, this is so great. Mark and I love this episode. It's the big wrap up. So we've had an entire season where we're talking to these amazing idea generators. People are out there doing stuff and a whole array of things. It's so exciting. So we bring everybody back. So for two reasons. Number one, so they can update us, like what happened since we last talked to you. And then also to get all of these amazing people in one place. So we're going to kick it off today. We're going to go in the order in which everybody went and launched in the episodes and the shows. Our first person up is going to be JT Compeau. And we had a great conversation with JT. JT's a speechwriter, communicator, coach. He has an advertising background, which I love, and leads you in a really good space to look at everything as a marketing campaign. But JT kind of started off with this idea is like, why should people be afraid to tell their own stories? So it was really cool to have this conversation with JT. So JT, we'd love to hear how things have been going since your episode.
Oh, thank you for that intro. Thank you for having me on. And it's great to be here in the same room virtually, of course, with everybody. I feel like it's a real meeting of the minds, and I somehow was able to crash the whole thing. So thanks for having me here. The conversation that the three of us had earlier in the season really stuck with me. And the question that keeps resonating in my mind and is in my notes and up on my wall is, what would it take for the audience to think of you as insightful? And I thought about this really in the context of what are the stories that we're more willing to share? What are the stories that we're not as willing to share? And as we were recording our episode, I think at the time I was in negotiations to do a course, an online course, which I'd never done before. And I was really kind of freaking out, honestly, because I said, I've never done it before. And so much of my work is tailored to a one-on-one process. And how do I do it and everything? And the conversation that we had and that single question really helped me to codify not only the process that I use to work with clients, but how do I incorporate stories into the course of perhaps where I've stumbled and how people might learn from my mistakes. So that's been a tremendous influence. And that course is it's still under development, but we have a great script in place for it. And that question has also manifested itself in my work. I found that a recommendation that I had from a client in the fall referred to me very much as a partner. And I love what you said in the intro about thinking about everything as a marketing campaign, how everything that you say and do rolls up into your brand. And I think that you guys planted the seed there, and it's made me a better collaborator with my clients. So it's been a wonderful period since that episode for me. And just thank you for being my collaborators.
JT, I love that. You know, one thing, Mark, I don't know if you remember this, but what I loved about the conversation we had with JT was when we got to the point about being insightful, it was because we landed on this thing that JT was pushing of the whole, like, what could other people learn from something that you typically afraid to share, you know, and also knowing that space of like, what is valuable to share and what's maybe too much, but what's that story that we're like really afraid or maybe ashamed or maybe, you know, all the things. So JT, that's, it's really cool to hear that. It's really cool to hear that you incorporate it not in two ways, and for yourself, because many times we have ideas and we're like, this idea is awesome for you. I don't know what it does for me, but it's awesome for you.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I've had a few of those.
Yeah.
I love that you've got a course cooking up. I love that you, as Cathey was saying, that the whole idea of asking that question isn't helpful for you, but that it's going to be helpful for so many other people. And again, the concept of getting people to tell stories that they have not thought about, or they have not considered, or they've been holding back from telling, and adding value to that just speaks to how valuable you are as a coach. So thank you, JT, for what you were doing with that idea.
I appreciate that. And, you know, I think the other part of it too is just figuring out, well, maybe it's a story I've told again and again, but how can I add new dimension to it? Or how does it relate to this particular audience? So much of it is calibration. So as you can tell from the inspiration I've had from our episode, it's really manifested itself in so many different ways. And it's enhanced the quality of my clients' work and my own work.
Nice.
So cool.
Nice. Well, I got to tell you, Cathey, you know, it's one thing to hear stories being told and putting into classes. And I've been so super inspired by that. And I've also been super inspired by the next person that we had on episode 3 this season, because every time I sit on the floor, I think of Bo. Every time I look at my wrist, I think Bo. I'm scared to ask Bo if he thinks that I'm sitting down or standing up, but I'm sure he can already figure out that I'm still sitting down. Yeah, look at him nodding his head, nodding his head. So
I'm standing.
I know you are, because I took Bo's class. I get it. Bo, it's so amazing to have you. I love calling you Dr. Bo, so I'm going to call you Dr. Bo. And Dr. Bo, tell us, because it was so amazing and energetic to have you this season. Talk to us about living your longest and strongest life and gamifying the system and improving our healthcare and our health. Talk to us about what your idea was and what you've done with it since we last spoke.
So for those who weren't on the episode, and of course, let me thank you guys for having me on, of course, here. But those that didn't check out the episode, actually, that started from Marc being on my podcast and kind of said, you know, we were talking and he said, hey, if you were having a TED Talk tomorrow, what would it be on? So I said, I want to redefine healthcare and fitness and kind of make that better for every human out there, because we have a broken system, if you guys aren't aware. I see a lot of head shakes going there. So I'm onto something, I guess. So I'll just jump to the kind of what I took away from it. There's the kind of the macro and the micro. The micro is, I still want, my mission is even stronger to assess every single human. And I would love to assess each of you on this call if you want. My info's in there. And we're going to start. And if y'all don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and do the thing we did. And again, if you hadn't seen the episode, Marc and Cathey know what's coming, is put one hand on your chest, put one hand on your belly. And if you're listening at home, do the same and take a few deep breaths, as deep as you can, in and out. And Emily, I see some things happening. JT, some things happening. And almost every one of you, except maybe Virginia. I don't see Virginia's chest moving. Is the only one I don't see her chest moving. Basically, a really simple assessment. And Marc and Cathey still didn't listen to me from the episode. So the call out there is when you're breathing up in your chest, it's very inefficient. You're in fight or flight mode, which again, we're on a live recording, so that's okay. You can be stressed out and things like that. But if you're able to breathe well, you should be breathing down into your belly. Virginia's got yes, Virginia was the only one I saw very clearly. And sorry if I was trying to look at everyone's little Brady Bunch video here as we're in now. So that's the micro. I want to assess every human being. That was one of the big takeaways. If I was ever on a TED stage to really get the crowd involved, doing different tests, we did the wrist test, which y'all can check that out later. I won't use that up now. And then the macro, jumping to that is I kind of decided, because again, if you listen to that episode and you can hear me now, I'm still kind of all over the place with so many different ideas and trying to figure out how to synthesize that and beat this crazy system. Oh, I put my own thumbs up. I don't know why. I think it automatically saw that. Anyway, so with all that, I just decided, my wife actually just published a book. She's a sex and relationship therapist for female penetrative disorders. Very, very fun stuff. Very clinical, but it's a very important thing. And so she kind of inspired me. She just published in November. And I decided I have all these different ideas, and Marc and Cathey kind of helped me synthesize them in different ways. And as I went another way, they were like, wait, come back here and chop it up here. So I said, I'm just going to put it into kind of chapters. And so that's what I'm currently working on. And luckily our house did not burn down with the manuscripts in it, so to speak, because all that work would be, and again, luckily everything's digital these days also. But yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. That's my update. Thank you all for doing the breath assessment with me, and hopefully that made some sense. And that's me.
Bo, I just want you to know, Bo, I failed the test just now.
We fail again.
I know, but I promise you, Bo, I promise you, on a regular basis when I'm breathing, I'm focusing on my belly. I'm telling you, Coach. I'm telling you.
I believe you. The second part of that assessment for anyone. Sorry, go ahead.
No, Bo. I was just gonna say I was focusing on doing the nose thing, and so it caused me to get back in the chest area again. Yeah.
I was just going to say the second part of that assessment is, if you are currently breathing with your chest, can we dissociate, and do you have the ability to breathe into your belly? So that would be the second part of that. So again, Marc, if you know you failed right now, that's okay. But can you breathe into your belly? That's the second part. A lot of folks can't even access that. So that's where that work has to then go. And that's, again, just to wrap it all up. I forgot if I shared this on my episode, because feels like a while ago, feels like a couple of years ago, was the Bo 30 system. So in 30 minutes, I can help you move better, feel better. Then we put a plan in place for the next 30 days, and that's going to help set us up for the next 30 years of longevity.
Yeah, I love that. If you haven't seen Dr. Bo's episode, definitely go back. It makes you think about, one thing that I love that Bo talked about was I never really consciously put my health as thinking about it like, retirement, like in that same space of like, you do all this stuff for your retirement, but what about your body and your health, and what can you do a little bit of now that will pay off a lot later on? So yeah, even if I'm still failing your test, and even if I'm trying to show off because I'm double jointed, and that really means that I lost against Marc in the episode, I really am trying to take into account what Bo said.
Our longest and strongest years. Our longest and strongest years.
I love it. Yeah. So thank you, Bo.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
So that was crazy. Like, Bo, that does seem like it was a year ago. And that was episode 3. Moving on to episode 5 was Emily Purry. Emily shared her story with us. And I loved what Emily shared, because she started off somewhere at the beginning of the episode and said, you live in this body today, but you never know the body you'll live in tomorrow. And Marc and I were just like, oh, you can see both Marc and I in any episode where our heads are down and you can see us, and we'll have our pen and we're writing. We're taking great notes on things that were said. But Emily, yeah, please tell us a little bit more about what happened since we had the episode with you.
Absolutely. And I have to correct you, because Marc threw that question at me out of the blue. If I had one sentence on the spot, I had no clue what to expect there. And that's what I came up with. And it's really stuck with me. As far as the actual TED Talk development, it's still simmering for sure. I'm really looking at the intended outcome of the episode. So just to recap, I run 2 companies. So Bo, I love that you're all over the place, just like me, because I came to Marc and Cathey and I said, I got this for-profit business, I got this nonprofit business, and it's all supporting people with disabilities, but I'm talking to the people with disabilities, I'm talking to our donors, and I'm talking to corporations. And so how do I do that in one TED Talk? And so I was everywhere and trying to figure it out. So it was really just eye-opening to try and figure out who would my intended audience be, and or how can I reach multiple audiences within this one talk? And so that's where this phrase came out. And it was because I live with a disability. I'm legally blind. I have macular degeneration since I was a kid. And so this this thing about disability is that many able-bodied folks say, you know, they don't not care, but they don't think about it on a daily basis because they don't live that life, that experience. And so, you know, the body you live in today, but you might not know what body you live in tomorrow. And so it's bringing that awareness to every person who does and does not have a disability. So my specific disability gets worse over time. And so I don't know what it will be when I'm, you know, 50, 60, 70. I don't know what it will be tomorrow. And so I, as a person with a disability, even have to keep that question in mind. So the idea is just simmering. I talked to Cathey a couple of weeks ago, and we're looking probably about June, mid-year of 2022 to really start thinking about the TED Talk and putting all the wheels in motion to see what that looks like. But for now, just really trying to still bring awareness for people with disabilities and veterans with disabilities and see where that takes me. So it's been fun, and just a lot of ideas rolling around in the brain of mine. So it's been great.
Emily, I have to give you a shout out real quick. We talked about her being a badass, Mark, in the episode, remember?
Yes.
I don't think you know how badass Emily is. So we followed up with Emily and I followed up with a continued conversation because she's gonna give a TED Talk. That's like a for sure. And so we were having a conversation, and I asked her to do a couple of things, and she comes back with like homework times a million. And I was like, oh my God. Talk about somebody who, you know, I mean, Virginia, you and her are on the same wavelength as far as like ideas. It's like, she just had idea after idea after idea. And it was almost kind of like, ooh, okay, now we got to kind of like, we got to sift through all this and get to one, which is where we're always at. But just shout out to Emily. Like, Emily, you do so much great work in the community. And I really appreciate that you're not the kind of person that sat back and said, oh, this thing happened to me, it sucks. You don't even like, you just move forward and you do everything you can in the space you can, not only for yourself, but for other people. So huge shout
Absolutely.
out.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mark, I got to show you this picture. I'm going to turn off my camera for a second.
Oh
yeah. Look, she just got back.
I just got back from Costa Rica. And if you can't tell, on there, my shirt says blind surfer. So it's pretty badass, I got to say, to be out in Costa Rica. I just got back from Costa Rica and was learning how to surf, and it was amazing.
Love that. That is the epitome of badass, rock star, and superhero all wrapped up in one.
Thank you.
You need your own Avengers movie.
Yes, totally. Skip the TED Talk. Just go straight to the
movie. Okay. Thank you both, though. That was great.
So cool. Well, I got to tell you, as you talk about, you know, the body that you don't know you're going to have tomorrow, and Bo talks about longer and stronger, right? And JT talks about, you know, telling those stories that you've been afraid to tell. I feel that this is the perfect setup for the entire group that our community auntie Jacqueline works with, right? The Gen Zers. And I think this message is way beyond the Gen Zers, but she is zero focused on the Gen Zers and helping them to be longer, stronger, to be unafraid and unapologetic in so many ways. So all of us, so that you know, aunties and uncles. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know what that means, Jacqueline, take the floor. Tell us what a community auntie and an uncle is. Talk to us about your idea and what has happened since we last spoke.
It's my absolute privilege to do so, Uncle Mark. And I need to do this first to assess myself, since it could be a very emotional topic. So just starting from, I guess, like the program level, calling for allyship specifically. And thank you so much for Cathey for calling this banner out. This is one of the brilliant work from the Gen Zs in this program. And this program, just to be very brief, is a social impact, social justice program to address the challenge our country has been facing since the pandemic started in division, in violence, surge, et cetera, et cetera. And by inviting and also engaging the future leaders of America to come out with a solution in the format of proposal writing contest. So what we do, is to reach out and also to invite the Gen Z youth. And this population is aged from 12 to 24. So you can see they are like from elementary to college. And this is a huge population. They are on the rise. When we had this amazing conversation back in November, Marc and Cathey, I just want to thank you so much to remind me that I simply just take it for granted on the concept because everybody can tell I am an Asian woman. So this concept, community aunties or uncle, this is more from the Asian community. And I didn't realize that it could be something bigger than that. So I just want to thank you, and it really helped me to bring it together further on the program level. So after our discussion in November, fortunately, and also I was super grateful to be able to see the great momentum, because other than the proposal writing winners being identified, and they also take the initiative. They want to bring their proposals in life. So we are talking about the implementation. So that's what I've been working very closely with them and together with lots of uncles, auntie in the program. And there's another word they have, it's mentor or ally. And super fortunately, because the month of January is our national month of mentoring. So I just feel super emotional, be able to talk about this topic and also give my personal gratitude to whoever support, aspired, or listen to this program story and be able to help us to carry that forward. And in a personal level, I just want to, thanks to JT, I just want to follow your example. So one thing that I used to be very afraid to share is something very personal. And in a personal note, I lost my own mentor. And he was also the program mentor for this calling for allyship, the 84-year-old Jacqueline, after our conversation in November. So that was a very, very rough time for me personally, and also for the program kids. But we were able to manage and be able to invite all his families in our holiday appreciation party in December, and also connect the older generation with the younger generation, help them to see what we really mean by mentor and what does a role model really mean to them. It doesn't matter how old or what ethnicity group or their background. We are all here working together.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And I just want to say that I had the opportunity to meet the proposal winners and some of the contestants, and it was just a beautiful thing to see what Jacqueline is doing. It's a beautiful thing to see what these young minds are doing. And Cathey, I got to tell you, I don't know if it's season 5, season 6, season 7, or season Z. We definitely have some future idea creators for it's about to go down in the future. All things are beyond.
Yeah, Jacqueline, you definitely have to send them our way for sure. Jacqueline, you know, I have to tell you too, that again, anybody who hasn't watched Jacqueline's, please do. I think just, you know, when I heard it and, you know, my brain sometimes just as like a TED coach, I'm hearing ideas constantly. And sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, good idea, but kind of heard it before. So let's go deeper, like, you know, and then I heard your idea, Jacqueline. And the minute I heard it, I remember it like punched me in the heart, like, and it hit me on a different level. And I haven't been able to be out in the community and not feel a sense of like real connection. Like it's so easy to separate yourself from people, no matter what, just be at the grocery store and be like, oh, I'm here. Like, I don't know any of these people. Like, but when you really say like, I'm a community auntie, so I'm responsible for somebody who's trying to get through the door and is having a hard time, or I'm responsible for a kid. Like I took it as so much bigger. Like it really hit me. And so I super thank you for that inspiration. And, you know, I don't know about you, Marc. Well, I do know about you, Marc, because you have these conversations with your family, but I don't know how much, like, my brain is always like, I always go back to things that ideas that people say. I'll literally be out shopping and I'll go, oh, this or that. So Jacqueline, yours definitely hit me on that level. So I just want to, I appreciate the work that you're doing and how much passion you're putting into the next generation, and just everything that you're doing to help make your community and all the communities a better place. Love it. Good stuff. Yeah. Good stuff. And on that same note, so this is a funny story, y'all. I met Diane in the funniest way. So I got asked by a friend of mine if I would be part of this group. There's a kind of a small group that's putting together a gala for Providence Cancer Institution here in Portland, Oregon. And they do a big gala every year, and they're trying to raise money for research in the cancer space. And anybody who knows anything about this space, Diane would be one of those people, knows that Providence is they're worldwide, they're world renowned. They're very much known for their research and how much they put into it. So it's a big deal. Well, they came to me, one of my friends came to me and said, hey, would you want to be on the board? We want you specifically to find a really good speaker. Now, here's the issue that we've had in the past. We bring in other speakers, and yeah, maybe they're a big celebrity, but then it doesn't make the heart connection or the connection to the community with cancer. Or maybe we have somebody that has cancer, but then they're terrified to speak, and then they're not, and it just doesn't come across well, right? So I just literally go on the internet and I start typing like cancer survivor. I mean, I'm like knee deep into this entire search, speakers. And of course, I'm finding like professional speakers and agencies. And then I'm finding cancer survivors and stories. And then I find Diane and her organization Beat Stage 3. And I have to tell you, the second I saw her beautiful face, her smile, and I heard her talk maybe for 30 seconds. And I was like, oh, that's the one. I am pitching her back, like no questions asked. I looked up her stuff and I was like, oh my gosh. I read her story and then I meet her and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm proud to say a couple things. Diane is going to be the speaker this year in 2022. She is the big keynote. Everybody fell in love with her. Everybody on the team fell in love with her. She's our big keynote. So she's coming to Portland to keynote. But Diane, really, sorry for the long intro, just funny story. We've become close in such a short amount of time. So I'm kind of helping her through that talk, which she's going to do really great. But Diane has a love and a heart for patient advocacy. And, if you hear some of her stories, she's went through some really rough things, starting off with the diagnosis, then even after being diagnosed, some of the things that, doctors were just kind of, pushing away, or, walking into a place. And, on the episode, she talked about walking into a place and the way that people treat patients sometimes. So she's not only a patient advocate, but she does it with such love, empathy, and positivity. So Diane, just a huge, beautiful heart in this world. So Diane, tell us a little bit, because you've been on go with
oh my gosh. Yeah. That intro. Okay, I'm taking Cathey everywhere I go. Oh my God.
I'm available, Diane.
Oh my God. I just want to cry. Okay. First, let me just say, thank you, Marc and Cathey, for bringing this group together. We don't know each other, but I already figured out how many things we have in common. So Dr. Bo, my hashtag on the back of my Beat Stage 3 shirts is Live Longer, Stronger. Oh my God. I'm going to get this shirt before the episode's over to show you. I can't even, right? Jacqueline, I'm an elementary school guidance counselor. So I work with K-5 daily, right? So the speaking that you're talking about and the writing component that you're talking about, we have been emphasizing at my school on a daily basis. And we created a Mandarin program from K-5, 5 years ago. So now we're at the kids who started in K, they're now in their 5th year. What? Okay, enough already. Okay, and Miss Emily, who's surfing and legally blind, like I'm a cancer survivor. They told me I wasn't gonna make it, and here we are. I'm over it. Okay, Mr. JT, I've always been scared to speak. So thank you for creating a lane for people like me to be like speaking. Okay. All right. So I just had to get that out because I have notes. They will tell you. All right. Insane. So I am humbled to be like in the presence of all of you. Thank you for sharing. The Village Lighthouse, Be Stage 3 is a nonprofit organization that I created along with my best girlfriend because I wanted to create what I didn't see in treatment. So fast forward, making it out of treatment into survivorship, it's like even worse, right? So just on your regular day-to-day, and not just for Black people, but particularly for Black people, just the stories that I'm getting from like being on the grounds, talking to survivors or people who are going through not just cancer, just anything, right? Because if we're honest, Black people have the highest incidence and mortality rate from every ethnic group in every disease. It's just insane. COVID just highlighted it all, right? Didn't discover it, it just put it on blast because we were all forced to sit home and have to see what it looked like. And I'm an advocate with the American Cancer Society, and they developed something called the Black Volunteer Caucus because we don't have the engagement from Black neighborhoods or districts. When we go to the lobby in, DC and Albany, and we sit before Congress, I'm like always the token to speak. One, because I'm the stage 3 colon cancer survivor that has the connection with the actual ask, right, for the bill. But most of us don't live out of stage 3 colon cancer if we are of color. So I wanted to create a patient advocacy firm that help patients lift their own voices, become self-advocates, but also hold the medical field accountable for the treatment from the person who answers the phone to make the appointment all the way to the doctor who's actually providing the treatment. And I think that the development and professional training is just not given. I've spoken to several secretaries. I've spoken to the receptionist, the sonographer, the, topographist, like you name it, every aspect. You get hired, but you get hired about billing. You learn those codes to make sure they get their money and insurance companies get their money, but no one's saying, how do you speak to a patient? How do you make sure they come back for a return to follow-up? How are you making sure that they're continuing on with the treatment plan that you gave them so they can live longer, stronger? And then we can improve patient outcomes and how people see their health and the relationship, right? It's this abusive relationship. If it was your boyfriend or your girlfriend, you'd be like, out of here, bye. So we need to do that with doctors. You're not treating me right. I got to find somebody else. So I want to empower folks and I want to reimagine healthcare, right? Bo, I have a whole talk show called Her Talks Today, Health Empowerment Reimagined. You shouldn't be afraid of the doctor. Don't be scared. Like go in there and make sure that you know that your health is all you have. If you don't have health, you have nothing else. You can't do anything else. You can't work. You can't be there for your children. You can't achieve the milestones. You can't dream. You can't do anything. So I just wanted to create something that would focus on that. So I've done that. I've created the advisory board. We are now incorporated, which is amazing. And then I've been asked to sit on 4 clinical trials as a consultant, as the patient advocate. So I'm happy about that. And then I've been elected to like American Cancer Society advisory board for the greater New York area, which I thought was something small, but it's not.
Such an honor. No, such a big deal.
It's been going
huge.
Crazy. So I'm excited.
Wow. All right. Can I tell you, I'm guilty. I'm guilty as charged. I've been on this secret mission to take our educators and turn them into entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and get them doing some amazing things because listen, you do an amazing justice to our children in the public school system. So there's a part of me that never wants to see you leave, but there's so much value beyond the classroom and the school building that I see that you can bring to the world. And I'm so happy to have had this conversation with you. And I love your passion, and your passion with everybody else's passion is super passionate right now.
Fire.
Yes.
Thank you, Marc and Cathey. Thank you.
So amazing. All right. And we are in Brooklyn. We still have to get together for lunch or something like that.
Make it happen next week.
You're basically
Y'all all
neighbors.
heard it here.
Oh, next week, she challenged you right here.
Done. I'll be in touch with you. Done. Absolutely. Now, I got to tell you, when we meet for lunch, I have to think about my good friend Chad, right? Because my good friend Chad is going to have me thinking when I meet Diane for lunch, what am I not going to do, right? What is something hard but not impossible that I'm going to do during that lunch, after that lunch, before that lunch? Because my man Chad has schooled so many people. And I got to tell you, Chad, after our episode, I had a conversation with my children about what they would give up. I told them the toilet thing. Yeah, they absolutely laughed at my face.
Yeah, that's a steep bar. I challenged Marc and Cathey to go a month in their own house without using their regular toilet, which was it's a leap.
Yeah,
it's a leap. It's a leap.
It was a big leap. It was a big leap, but it did get my children to have open conversations about the topic. So, Chad, tell us about the Yom, tell us about your idea, and tell us about what's been happening with your idea since we last spoke.
Absolutely. Two real quick things first. One is I did have the opportunity to listen to everybody's episode in season 3. And I loved it. I'm really confident that I could have a totally deep and fascinating conversation with every one of you. And I also noticed that all of our ideas were about making the world a better place or making people's lives better, which kind of has me feel like I'm with my tribe, and it feels really exciting to me. So just again, like a brief orientation for context for everybody who's listening who didn't listen to the episode. In 2021, I moved from a comfy little studio condo in Portland, Oregon, into a tent in the middle of the woods in Western Maine with no utilities or anything. I kind of started with bare land and just kind of built the whole thing myself. And, Marc was pointing to one of the things that we started to clarify in the episode, which is this idea of proactive discomfort. It's like finding some way, instead of waiting for something to become uncomfortable and reacting to it, actually choosing to be uncomfortable in a way that would produce some kind of resilience. It would increase your confidence, things like that. And actually in a way that might actually reduce your overall suffering because you're engaging it proactively. So I think that was the big general get from that episode. The other thing that we talked about that kind of led into that is this idea of, and it's really was kind of I told them that I'm not a subject matter expert, that I'm more somebody who's performing a series of experiments or one big experiment. And that the nature of the experiment is what happens when I remove all these layers of comfort and convenience and get myself as close to basic survival as possible within my skill set. I mean, I can't be out there naked with a knife in the woods. I wouldn't make it. But I mean, within my skill set, how close can I get to basic survival, right? And one of the things that immediately led to is this idea of getting super close like that leads to more direct bodily experience. And so it's kind of like we were talking in that episode about this idea of the difference between describing an apple to somebody or actually picking up an apple and eating one. And so that's, one of the kind of things we to kind of make it punchy is just I just want people to eat more apples, like find ways to get closer to real life, as many real life experiences as you can, load it into your body because it's so much more powerful than a concept or an abstraction in terms of, the depth and subtlety of the learnings. So I think those were the big ideas, and I still think of them as the big ideas. And I would say since then, there's been a couple of things that have happened. One, I think, and it's helpful for me, or probably most honest for me to talk about some of the benefits that I've gotten really clarified on since we talked, just from the whole experience, not just from the talk, but like, the show we did, but all this time I've been having this experience of living in the woods. I'm still getting clarity on the ways I'm benefiting. So two of the ones that are really clear to me is that I've just noticed I've had a huge confidence boost from doing this. It reminds me of when I took karate, where I never had any idea of how to physically defend myself. And then I took karate for a few years and I just felt more confident just walking around in life. I had more physical confidence. And it's a similar kind of thing where now just in life, when it comes to the idea of basic survival, I just feel more confident. So there's that piece of the confidence. And then the other one is just, it's hard. Like it's probably the hardest thing I've ever done. And it kind of had this shift happen in me where I just stopped thinking that I hadn't done anything amazing in my life or something. Like it was some kind of thing where if I'm, you know, in the past, if I was in the presence of somebody who was like a really amazing person, I might feel a little smaller than them, you know. And now, for whatever reason, I challenged myself in a way that was extremely difficult. And I'm like, okay, man, I can do it. Like I can do something badass. And it gave me that real degree of confidence, which I feel, it just feels good to have it, you know. And then the other thing, which is kind of taken me by surprise, is that I'm now able to see my inside more clearly. And I can't tell you exactly why that's happening, but I believe it has something to do with it. Because I've reduced the external complexity, I've made it simple and hard. It kind of feels like my inside space is quieter. And then I can just sort of see how I react to things and everything much more clearly. It's like, if you imagine this idea of like, you know, working on your inner child or whatever, I just see that part of me so much more clearly because there's much less noise in the way. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So, and it's really exciting because that's a really important part of my life, is this, you know, constantly looking in and finding ways to kind of heal myself and stuff. And that it was an unexpected and very happy thing to happen for me during that. So I guess, but to be more direct to the question you would be asking, which is like, how did, say, something like me giving a TED Talk develop from our conversation? I really think the big get I've gotten there is, you guys have talked about it, because I had the opportunity to listen to all the episodes in the season. I did hear you two mention a couple of times that different people come in at different phases of their idea. You know, it could be clear from the beginning all the way to like they're ready to give a TED Talk. And that was helpful for me to hear. And then as I reflected on our conversation, I feel now really clear for myself that I'm way towards the beginning of that. And locating that helped me to not punish myself for not, like, I don't have everything all wrapped up in a bow. And it's really because I'm just at the beginning of this whole cycle. And it reminded me of like, one of the things I'm learning out there in the woods is I'm like chopping down trees and, you know, going to the bathroom in a bucket and stuff, is everything moves so much slower. You know, like two really easy examples are, in order to really know like how to put if I'm going to put a solar panel up, it takes a year to like watch the sun move across the sky during the different seasons and to know like, where do I put the panel? What trees do I cut down? That's not clicking a button on Amazon and have something come 2 days later, right? It's a whole different cycle. Or, you know, from the time I cut a tree down until it would get cut and put into my stove for heat could be maybe upwards of 2 years. So the cycles are very long, you know, and I've been out there for 7 or 8 months. And so just looking at it that way, it's kind of like, well, I'm just at the beginning of the whole journey. So it makes sense that I wouldn't have everything wrapped up into a little bow. I'm happy that I have some clarity and I was able to share that on the show, but there's so much more. It's like, I just need to wait and let more data come in. And I think the clarity is going to develop over time. Yeah.
Nice. That was great to hear.
Yeah. I did want to share, because I definitely listened to your entire episode, Chad, and I appreciated the shout out that I violently agreed from Cathey about the getting kind of uncomfortable with the comfortable. But when our house was about to be burned down, and it was like, you needed to come to that mindset of like, it's just stuff, we have insurance or whatever, and okay, cool, now is my chance, because I did recently listen to the episode of like, maybe we can live this simpler life.
Right.
So it was like, I don't need, you know, however many t-shirts and things like that and all these kind of materialistic things. So I did that for whatever that's worth. I did want to share that. It definitely was resonating and kind of helped me, like, especially those nights when we didn't know if it was going to burn down, like think about like, maybe we should go to a simple, and like, it's not impossible, and it's not like the worst thing ever. And maybe again, it's something that even though it didn't burn down, like something we should move to. So again, thank you for that kind of message, at least.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. You know, I think a lot of what I'm doing, it feels like it's an art project. I kind of think of it like, this is an art project of like showing in an artful way what I'm doing. And I do it because I think it's the right thing to do and I want to, but I have this hope that I would have an impact. You know, it kind of seems like that's sort of maybe what a fundamental thing for any artist is. You don't do it because you're trying to get an impact, but there's still this way of like, oh, I want to make the world a better place, or I want this to impact somebody in some way. So it always feels like fuel to me when somebody shares. So thank you, Bo. I appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No, that was really, thanks for sharing, Bo. That's really cool. Chad, I really appreciate that you gave yourself the grace to, because we had a great conversation with you. You challenged Mark and I's thinking, but look at that. You have proof right there that even in the beginning stages of an idea, what you're doing, your social experiment, if you will, I'm going to push on you again. You will become the subject matter expert when you can actually talk about eating an apple, because you have experience eating an apple, as opposed to just visualizing eating an apple or, hearing somebody else's explanation of eating an apple. So in fact, because of you, Chad, I come up with I actually even have this thing that I started using, because Mark and I love to do concepts. Mark, I came up with the concept because of Chad. It's the apple concept. Because, we coach a lot of speakers, right? And they're like, sometimes they tell things like a reporter, as opposed to and so it's different. It's like, don't tell us what it's like to eat an apple, make us experience what it's like to eat an apple. So there's so many things that can come out of conversations, Chad. And, I will never forget either. Every time I go to now change my heat, I'm thinking, where is this heat coming from? We're just hitting a button and it somehow magically is staying at this degree that we set it at. But you really made me think about when you watch your resources, when you're watching them and you're experiencing them, just how different it is. So anybody who hasn't seen Chad's episode, it's wonderful. And even more, I would go watch his One Life to Live. One Life. Sorry, say it, Chad.
That's Life to Live.1.
Life to Live.1. Sorry, I knew the one was in there and I was putting it in the wrong place.
One Life to Live was a soap opera.
I know, exactly. I was like, I feel like that's a soap opera.
You should watch that too. It's a great soap opera. I watched when I was a kid.
It's Chad's soap opera about building a yome. That's exactly what it is. Oh, so great. So great. Well, that leads us to Virginia, who actually was our final episode. And Virginia and I have a kind of a fun story. We met on a private island technically in Indonesia, off of Singapore, somewhere out there, we were there for a very specific reason. We were there we have a mutual friend named Jimbo Clark, and he started something called Brains on the Beach. And Brains on the Beach was put together as a place for a bunch of creatives to go and talk about ideas and just create stuff and share ideas. And everything that we brought there was not for any monetary value. It was just to create ideation. And that's when I found out what a brilliant brain spark idea generator Virginia was and is. I found out then, and I know now. So we had her on the show for the first time ever. We did something different. She didn't come on the show with an idea to talk about. She came on the show and said, how about I just explore 3 ideas? And so that's what she did. And it was a unique episode. And Virginia, if you want to tell us what's happened since then.
Thanks so much, Cathey. And it's actually, I think this might have been the longest in my life I haven't spoken. So it was really good training for the Vipassana meditation retreat that I'm doing at the end of this week, because coming back to simplicity, Chad, I'm on a spontaneous road trip. I'm in a different country, since I have, a simple small suitcase that I have stuff that is actually unplanned. I have a week's worth of clothes. That's pretty much all I have with me at the moment. I have a surfboard, haha, Emily, yes. I have a yoga mat, which is why I can breathe deeply, because I'm a yoga instructor. So I had an unfair advantage on that. But although I did actually admit to thinking that I was doing it wrong, I'm like, okay, let me breathe into my chest then. So all of those things are happening. And so I'm in a different country since we spoke. I'm in Australia. I'm normally based in Hong Kong. I'm on a sabbatical. So how long that sabbatical is going to last is now dependent on the border restrictions between the 2 countries in which I live. So Hong Kong has just closed their border actually yesterday to Australia. So technically I can't go home. So I need to navigate through that. And given that I train other people to navigate through uncertainty and disruption, I'm living it each and every day, as we all are at the moment, with so many constant changes. So I am on a spontaneous road trip, as I mentioned. I was spending time with dear friends in the northern part of New South Wales, which is pristine, white sand beaches, just glorious. And then the border restrictions between 2 states shifted while I was in that location. I went, oh, that means I could actually continue to drive north. And so I have freedom of wheels. That's also new, right? I've never owned a car in my life, and I still don't own a car. It's a friend's car, but they are very kindly lending me a car. And so it means that I can pretty much do anything spontaneously. So I'm on sabbatical. It's spontaneous. I'm in another country. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I have a small suitcase and I have a surfboard, and that's what's happening. I have my laptop and I have my phone, and therefore I can pretty much work and do whatever I want anywhere in the world, provided I have electricity, Chad. And the great thing about Australia is we have a lot of solar. So there's also an app that was developed in Australia that you might want to know about that actually tracks the sun based on seasons. And it's based on a long period of time. It's available in Australia. I don't know if it's available where you are in the US, but it's a very cool app. So when I was looking at properties, I was literally like, how much morning sun am I going to get in winter in this room? So that's the kind of thing that I actually could look at on this app, which is very cool, right? How cool is that? So somebody has saved you a year's worth of looking at trees and following shadows, which can be very helpful. And also my dad has built tree houses, 2 pole houses on our family property from scratch, all off the grid. So I can connect you to him as well, because he is well on this journey. He's been doing it he's in his 70s now. So he's been doing it for a long time. So if you want to, I am very open to sharing some knowledge sharing as a community auntie, Jacqueline, of all of these different people that we can move around. So I am on my hashtag year of exploring possibilities. Cathey and Marc, you remember, I love hashtags. I mean, I'm an ex-marketer. It's in my DNA. I can't help it. Everything becomes a hashtag. All of my notes I've written so far are a whole series of hashtags from things that you've said from our conversation this morning. And I haven't even had caffeine yet. I'm in tomorrow already. So I already know what my body tomorrow feels like because I'm already here compared to you guys. So that's a good thing. But I haven't even had caffeine and I'm on fire with hashtags. So exploring possibilities is where I'm at. And my big overarching question for this sabbatical time that I'm in Australia is very much about how do I contribute, or how could I, how can I, how will I contribute to this community? So it's quite a different inquiry for me, because normally I love to ideate and start things from scratch and do things, that I'm bringing. It's all my ideas. I'm starting from scratch. I'm doing it. I'm making it happen. I want to take a different lens, and I really want to, honor heritage and really tap into legacy and really, consider and be mindful of what are the phenomenal things that already exist here, and how do I join other people's journeys rather than constantly be carving my own. Because as Cathey knows, I often introduce myself as a warrior woman. I can't help it. Like, I'm a fighter. I'm, number 1 in 5 kids. And so my job was to cut down the forest, literally, Chad, through our family property. That was my job. So I, am used to being out there, fighting, getting things done, and advocating for people who perhaps don't have the voice that I have the privilege to have. And so for me, instead of being at the front, instead of being the fighter, instead of kind of going, no, this is not good enough, which it's going to be a really hard thing to do, I really want to join, at the side and kind of go, how might I contribute? What can I do that will elevate you? And, that I'm really looking at that piece of, celebrate and elevate has really been something that's been coming up for me in the last couple of weeks, especially. So how do I celebrate what exists? How do I elevate what is here? And how do I join other people's journeys? And there's some really cool ways in which, I can definitely do that. So that's been my exploration. So I've been in Australia, actually, let me think about it, 4.5 weeks. And that's my journey so far.
Wow. What did I say at the end of our conversation? You are the epitome of 5 letters, NSPIR.
Thank you, Marc.
In 4 weeks, you have inspired contribution, you have inspired ideas, you have inspired change, you have inspired community, and you've inspired thought and ideas. So, and I just want to let you know that forget New Year's resolutions, but as the next day came along, I wrote down a whole bunch of different ideas that I've been thinking about. And one of my homework assignments is to go back and watch an episode, because you gave a master class on how to pick the idea. And so I just want you to know that you are a resource for ideas. And I just really enjoyed you and enjoyed our conversation. I enjoyed everybody.
With pleasure. Thank you. That's fantastic. And Sourdough is still happening, and Symphony by the Sea is in the works.
Nice.
If you don't know what that is, you have to watch her episode. 2 of the ideas.
Nice. Well, Cathey, I got to say, there are 3 people, if I recall, who could not join us today. And I know you have a message from Carrie. I don't know if you have a message from Marcus, but I just want to remind everybody, Marcus blew our minds. I don't even know how we could have coached him. I'm not even sure we did coach him, but I'm sure he most definitely enlightened us. Yes. And Lauren couldn't be with us today because as we were coaching her on an idea, she is out at a conference as we speak, sharing her idea.
Sharing the idea, yeah.
Yeah, I told her if she couldn't
go Lauren.
Not to be able to make it with us today, right? And what about Carrie? What did Carrie have to say, Cathey?
Yeah, so Carrie, just to wrap up really quick for everybody, Lauren was episode 1 of season 3, and she talked about how positivity isn't always productive. So if that kind of rings true to you, or that sounds interesting, go watch her episode. Carrie Human talked about, he's an advocate he's a mental health advocate. And he talked about, you don't have to control your thoughts. You just have to stop them from controlling you. So again, if that sounds interesting to you, go watch his. Carrie left me a message earlier today, and he just wanted us to know he couldn't be on, and he was really bummed about that, but he was really excited because he alluded to making a lot of headway since we had our conversation. So I'm excited to kind of talk to him personally, but it's always great to hear. And Marcus also messaged me and said that he couldn't because he got to spend time with family. And this is what I love about Marcus. He keeps it real 100% all the time. He said, I'm sorry, if I'm going to put the priority of anything else in family's always going to win. And so I was like, I love you, Marcus. You live what you speak. So, but Marcus definitely talks. Marcus is a wonderful, advocate for social justice and change, and speaks a lot on DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And his, like Mark said, I don't think we coached him at all. I think we just listened. So it was a great conversation. But yeah, those are the 3 that couldn't make it today.
Wow. Well, listen, season 3 was absolutely amazing. I adore, love, am inspired, lifted, elevated by all of you. And I can only hope that as we continue to grow as a network, as a family, as a community, that we will continue to bring so many ideas, right? Because we've got so many ideas going on. And I hope that we will continue to make the world a better place. And I hope that we will continue to think about our answer to this question. How can we? How do we? How will we contribute to this community? Season 3 was absolutely amazing, right, Cathey?
Yeah, it was.
Yes. So listen, to anybody out there, first of all, we are super excited to get ready for season 4. And Cathey, one day we might have to do one mega wrap up.
Could you imagine? A conference. We're going to do an It's About to Go Down conference.
Yes. And everybody will be on the stage giving their TED Talks. Oh,
heck yeah.
Man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
I don't know. Mark just freaking pulled a Virginia and just came up with an idea on the spot, I think. I don't know. We should talk about this. I like this.
Somebody needs to coach you to do a TED Talk on that.
Exactly. Somebody needs to coach you, Mark.
Most definitely. Well, listen, season 4 is about to come up, and we're so super excited. We're so super excited to have the opportunity to thank you all, to feature you all, to celebrate you all. And we definitely look forward to having future conversations with you. And for anybody who's watching, check out all of the episodes from season 1, season 2, and definitely season 3. And if you know anybody who has an amazing idea and would love to sit down with Cathey and I to build out that idea, to evolve that idea, to take that idea and make it into something you have yet to imagine, please go to our website. It's about to go down show. Send us an email at markandcathey@gmail.com, and we will so super jump on the opportunity to listen to your idea, so that at the end of another episode, at the end of another wrap up, and at the end of that It's About to Go Down conference, we can all say in unison, oh, it's about
to
go
go
down.
down.